Ladies and gentlemen, the grand exit, the one they never saw coming, the plot twist that sent their carefully crafted narrative crumbling into chaos. You, the one they thought they had figured out, flipped the script in a way that left them stunned, gasping for control. They thought you'd stay, endure, and accept their nonsense. But, oh, how wrong they were. You gave them something they didn't plan for the ultimate checkmate, and now their story is nothing but a tragedy of their own making. They assumed you were weak, didn't they? That your love for them was some kind of leash they could tighten and loosen at their whim. They pushed, they pulled, they played their little games, thinking you'd always be there. But love isn't weakness. No, love is strength. And it takes the strongest kind of love to walk away when you know you've given all you could. That's what they never understood. They mistook your kindness for submission, your patience for naivety. Fools. And now, look at them. Scrambling, confused, spinning in circles trying to figure out what went wrong. They thought they were the puppeteer, pulling your strings, controlling your every move. But you were never their puppet. You were the quiet observer, the strategist, the storm they never saw brewing, and when you left, it hit them like a tidal wave. They didn't know what to do because they never prepared for this possibility. In their arrogance, they thought you'd always stay, but you didn't. And that's what makes your departure so poetic. Oh, they'll try to rewrite the narrative now, paint themselves as the victim, as the one who was blindsided. They'll tell their sob stories to anyone who will listen, but deep down, they know the truth. They know they pushed you too far, tested your limits too many times, and underestimated you at every turn. And now they're paying the price. Because your absence isn't just noticeable, it's monumental. It's a void they can't fill, a silence that screams louder than any argument ever could. It's funny, isn't it? How they thought they could treat you like a doormat and still have you at their beck and call. They thought their half-hearted apologies and empty promises would be enough to keep you around. But you knew better. You saw through the facade, through their manipulations and gaslighting, and instead of staying to fix what was never truly yours to fix, you chose yourself. You chose yourself. You chose freedom. And that's what terrifies them the most. You see, people like them thrive on control. They feed off of power dynamics, off of making others feel small so they can feel big. But the moment you walked away, you took all that power with you. You shattered the illusion they had built, exposed the cracks in their foundation. And now, they're standing there, vulnerable, powerless, a shell of the person they pretended to be. Your departure wasn't just a plot twist, it was their undoing. Oh, but let's not forget the irony. They thought they were the clever ones, the ones always 2 steps ahead. They schemed, they planned, they manipulated, thinking they held all the cards. But the real ace was always in your hand. And when you played it, they didn't just lose the game, they lost you. And that's a loss they'll never recover from. Now, every day they wake up, they're haunted by the reality they created. They replay every insult, every betrayal, every moment they took you for granted. They see your strength, your resilience, your glow, and it eats away at them. Because they know they'll never find another like you. People like you don't come around twice, and they know it. Oh, how they know it. But let's not waste too much sympathy on them, shall we? After all, they had their chance. They had the privilege of your love, your loyalty, your unwavering support, and they squandered it. They treated it like it was replaceable, disposable. And now they're left with nothing but regret. Because no matter where they go, no matter who they turn to, they'll always compare them to you, and no one will measure up. You, my dear, are the standard, the benchmark, the one they'll remember long after everyone else has faded into the background. Your kindness, your strength, your grace, it's etched into their memory, a permanent reminder of what they lost. And the beauty of it all? You didn't have to lift a finger to make them realize it. Your absence did all the talking. And let's talk about that absence for a moment, shall we? It's not just the lack of your presence, it's the lack of what you brought to their life. The love, the stability, the light. They're fumbling in the dark now, trying to recreate what you gave so effortlessly. But they can't. Because what you gave came from the heart, from a place of genuine care and compassion. And that can't be replicated. So let them sit in their regret. Let them wallow in their self-pity. It's not your burden to carry. Your only job now is to keep moving forward, to keep building the life you deserve, because you've already won. The moment you walked away, you claimed your victory, and no amount of their bitterness or regret can take that away from you. Let's dive deeper into this beautifully tragic tale, shall we? Because the aftermath is where the real revelations unfold. The moment they realize just how monumental their loss was. It's a saga of their regret that grows heavier, with every passing day a burden they'll carry for the rest of their lives. You see, your departure wasn't just an event, it was a reckoning. Now they sit alone, questioning everything. Every word they uttered, every selfish act, every time they made you feel small. It's all rushing back to them now, like a storm they can't escape. And it's poetic justice, really. They thought they could treat you however they pleased, never once considering the consequences. But now those consequences are staring them in the face, relentless and unyielding. It's funny, isn't it, how they took your patience for granted? They thought you'd always be there no matter what. They didn't see the silent strength in you, the quiet resolve that was building with every insult, every slight. They were blind to the fire that was growing inside you, the fire that eventually burned through every chain they tried to shackle you with. And now they're left to sift through the ashes. They'll tell themselves it wasn't their fault. They'll spin stories in their head to justify their actions, to paint themselves as the victim. But deep down, in the quiet moments when there's no one around to hear their lies, they'll know. They'll know they had something precious, something rare, and they destroyed it with their own hands. And that knowledge, that's the punishment they can never escape. Because here's the truth, they failed to grasp people like you don't come around twice. You're not just one in a million, you're once in a lifetime. And they threw it away, thinking they could find another like you. But now, as they stumble through life, trying to fill the void you left, they'll realize the bitter truth. You were irreplaceable, and the substitutes they try to cling to will only remind them of what they lost. Oh, they'll try to reach out eventually. Their ego will keep them silent for a while, but regret is a powerful thing. It eats away at you, strips you of pride and pretense. And one day they'll come crawling back, hoping for a second chance. But by then, you'll be so far ahead, so deeply rooted in your own growth and happiness, that their words will feel like echoes from a life you no longer recognize. And here's the twist they never anticipated: you don't need closure from them. You don't need their apology or their acknowledgement to move on. Because your healing isn't tied to them, it's tied to you. To the strength you found within yourself, to the love you've learned to give yourself. And that's something they can't touch, can't take away. But let's not pretend their regret doesn't hold a certain satisfaction, shall we? Not because you're vengeful or spiteful, but because it's proof. Proof that you weren't the problem. Proof that your worth was always undeniable, even if they were too blind to see it. Their regret is the universe's way of saying, see, you were right all along. They'll try to distract themselves, of course, throw themselves into work, into new relationships, into anything that can dull the ache of your absence. But distractions are temporary, and late at night, when the world is quiet and they're left alone with their thoughts, they'll feel it. the weight of their choices, the sting of their mistakes. And they'll wonder, what if is a question they'll never get an answer to. You, on the other hand, have no need for such questions because you know the truth. You know that walking away was the best decision you ever made. It was an act of self-respect, of self-love. And it was the moment you reclaimed your power, the moment you reminded yourself of your worth. And that's something they'll never be able to take from you. As for their attempts to move on, well, let's just say it'll be a lesson in futility. Because every person they meet, every connection they try to forge, will pale in comparison to what they had with you. Not because those people aren't worthy, but because their hearts are still tethered to you. You're the one they'll measure everyone against, the one they'll never stop yearning for. And that's the curse they'll carry. Meanwhile, you'll be thriving. Building a life that's vibrant, fulfilling, and entirely your own. You'll find joy in places they never thought to look. Create happiness that doesn't depend on anyone else. And when they see you, glowing, thriving, unstoppable, they'll feel it. That pang of regret, sharp and unforgiving. And they'll know, without a doubt, that they were the ones who lost. So let them live in their delusion for a while. Let them tell themselves whatever they need to get through the day. Because the truth will catch up to them eventually. It always does. And when it does, it'll hit them like a freight train. The realization that they weren't just part of your story, they were the reason you became the hero of it. And as for them, well, their story is theirs to write. But let's be honest, it's a tragedy. A cautionary tale of what happens when you take someone for granted, when you mistake their love for weakness. They'll spend the rest of their days trying to fill the void you left behind, trying to undo the damage they caused. But they'll never succeed, because they had the real thing and they let it slip through their fingers. So here's to you, to your strength, your courage, your resilience.